We have globally accepted that women carry the culture, not men, women. From generation to generation, women have whispered lessons to their daughters. Women are credited with being the emotional ecosystem of any cultural nuance. Women are the keepers. It's not even to be debated, it's globally accepted. But when you really sit with that, you start to feel uncomfortable. That women are the carriers of everything that gets passed down in a culture. So, how do certain things continue to get passed down that are so harmful to women? One of the most successful lies of the patriarchy is that men don't listen, that they can't communicate, that they don't have the emotional depth that women do. But we should love them anyway. This is a story that women have been passing down for generations, handing it off from daughter to daughter as a part of their female survival kit in a patriarchy. Entire economies have been built around it. Books, podcasts, coaches, the comment sections under breakup videos are all a part of a machinery that has been built in trying to translate men to women. But these same men, these emotionally illiterate, can't read a room, don't know what they really want, people have run every major institution for centuries. Governments, religions, military, marriages, they have shaped human reality somehow without the emotional structure needed to even understand a human being. So somehow men who are catastrophically incompetent and at understanding the basics of people still manage to be running everything. Or the story that they can't is doing something very specific for somebody. And the question worth asking isn't who started it, but it is who is keeping it alive. Guys, if you haven't already, go ahead, subscribe to my channel. And let's get into my notes on how women's divesting from men movement is falling into another patriarchal trap. If women are the ones carrying it, the culture, the stories, the lesson, the conversation isn't really about men at all. It is about what it is we are carrying and why. When we talk about domination, male domination, we often talk about force. We talk about not consenting. We talk about ways that men push themselves, push their theories, push their ideologies. But in reality, a story is far more powerful than force. And it works best when the people telling the stories are not the ones who benefit from it. So you put the people you've traumatized in charge of telling the story that justifies their own trauma. Survivors become the eyewitnesses, and the ones who have been harmed the most are the ones who are in charge of managing, building systems around it. Literally learning how to manage the damage and not question the cause. We all know that stories told by the people that it benefits, well, that looks like propaganda. But stories told by the people who have been harmed, that's the truth. And then once these stories are internalized, it stops being a story because it's something that you can feel. It's real, it's inherited, it's something that is passed down from mother to daughter. And it reproduces itself through guilt, through love, through expectation, duty. And it continues long after force is completely forgotten. Asking how it is that men have maintained power for so long without any emotional intelligence is the wrong question. But why don't we look more at why we women continue to build the emotional architecture around our own harm. So much of women's emotional energy across generations of women have gone into one singular focus: figuring out men. The conversations around how to get him to open up, how to get him to commit, how to get him to communicate without shutting down, how do we ask for help but at the same time not nag. How do you want things from a man in your life without making him scared? Meanwhile, what have men been learning? Nothing, because he can't. He doesn't know how to do these sort of things. We are just now really evaluating the amount of emotional labor that women have been dealing with for generations and the outcomes for us physically. The irony of women carrying narratives that help men and harm them is that while we are carrying those narratives and trying to figure them out, we also write the manuals for our own manipulation. Men have spent generations studying the people they want to extract things from. The better you understand someone else's needs, the more you can stimulate them without actually providing them anything. We are finally just understanding that weaponized incompetence has been a strategy all along. Women have learned to trade information amongst each other, and we don't care how loud we are because the assumption is men aren't listening anyway. And to close the loop, women raise the boys that grow up into the men who benefit from this same architecture. Women who survive in a patriarchy translate that hard-earned survival into awareness and then pass it down and basically keep training the system because they rarely challenge these things at home. And this loop continues because structurally, the people most harmed by this system are helping reproduce the next generation inside of it. So we get to our most current survival strategy. Women who are divesting from men. They are not dating, they are not marrying, they are decentering men and maleness from their lives completely. And honestly, this looks like, and it feels like on paper, a natural endpoint to the system that we just talked about. Women closing the book, there's no more free study guides, no more free labor. And I don't think that this is wrong. I think that right now the conversation is incomplete. And that incompleteness is exactly where the danger lies. A lot of divestment, as it's currently being practiced, underneath is still simply a response to men. As a woman, you are committed to no longer doing that thing that didn't work. Totally valid. But there's something deeper that most divested women still have not explored. Right now, divestment in practice is primarily soft life content. Long skincare routines, solo travel trips, a clean apartment, finally choosing yourself, and peace is real, rest is real. Women are exhausted and have every right to be, but the aesthetic of healing is being used as a substitute for the actual work of grieving. And that's not the same thing. What a lot of women right now are doing is just building another survival strategy within patriarchy. Women present as fulfilled and complete right up to the point a man presents themselves who puts on a costume of seeing the light. A man who presents himself as ready enough, healed enough, worthy enough to access her. And here's And here's the problem. We have not given ourselves, as women, this space to grieve the woman that patriarchy built us into. Not punish ourselves for the role that we were given, and not even punish ourselves for at any point in time desiring that role, but to actually be released from the survival fantasy that is underneath it all. Because the fantasy doesn't disappear simply because we stop talking about it publicly. It simply goes quiet. And quiet for women in a patriarchy is always the most dangerous. A lot of women in the divestment movement are still holding on to a fantasy. Not the old one, a new one. The man who gets it, he's healed, he's evolved, emotionally intelligent, a man who watched all the discourse, did the inner work, and showed up ready and complete to be a partner, not just a partner, the partner that she deserves and needed all along. That is a very familiar fantasy. Maybe it's not Prince Charming, but it's definitely a rebrand. I mean, he's not going to show up on a white horse and slay a dragon for you, but he's got therapy speak and does yoga. Somehow, the man is still the reward for this personal journey. The only difference is, it's not the woman who woke up from a deep sleep. It was him. And then you get to witness it, be validated by it, chosen. That is not divestment. That is an age-old fairy tale that we've all been sold. And here's why it matters. The patriarchy is not static. It adjusts and evolves. When men know that women will reward emotional intelligence or having done the work, then many of them will learn how to perform what that looks like in order to get access, for as long as they want access. You guys have probably seen the story about WizardLiz, this woman who has been very outspoken about divestment, and she ended up in a relationship with an American man. I don't know where she's from. I know she's European, but she got into a relationship with this American man. It escalated extremely fast, and she had a baby. He is now holding this baby hostage in some sort of way to try and extort her. And the question everyone keeps asking is, how could she fall for it? How could a woman this divested, this aware of male incompetence, be tricked so quickly, so easily, so fast? The discourse always does this to women. It turns very quickly away from the man and his responsibility to the woman and her discernment. The hidden assumption that the woman was led astray by hope, blinded by the possibility of getting the right man. But the strategy that men have been using and often use that is very strategic, conniving, and is generations old never seems to get discussed. Because these qualities of building strategy in order to extract things from a partner are almost always attributed to women. Being calculating, playing the long game, trapping a man with a baby, those are things that women are often attributed to, but men have done in practice for generations. Modern women have become more and more transparent. Their boundaries, their values, their healing journeys. There are long lists of what I will not tolerate, the whole "it couldn't be me" crew. These things these are conversations that women are having publicly. And men are definitely listening. Now, this is not a call for women to go silent. We have to talk and we have to have these conversations publicly. But we also have to recognize that sharing knowledge leaves you open. It is not guaranteed safety. Because a list of boundaries can easily become a list of challenges for a lot of men. The WizardLiz situation is not an isolated horror story. It is a pattern that we rarely talk about out loud. When Cardi B left Offset, one of his first public moves was to make a post that said, "You are my baby mama, so therefore he won." Not his ex, not someone that he wronged, but a baby mama. A label that instantly repositions the relationship. That somehow he believes because he impregnated her, she had his children, that permanent tie to him means that he won. And on his terms. We absorb baby mama culture as a type of trope, but in reality, it is one of the oldest methods of leverage that men have used against women. It becomes a weapon because he knows what it does to her ability to fully walk away. I have had exes tell me, and not jokingly, that they should have gotten me pregnant. Not I wish I had been a better partner so that I didn't lose you, but the rope of a child. Something that would attach me to them permanently. And not because they wanted to be better human beings to me. Not because they actually wanted to parent a child with me, but to control and limit my movement. That is not love gone wrong. That is strategy of how men think about trapping women. And the women who are more likely to be targets right now are not the ones who want to be submissive wives. They're the divested ones. They are the ones who are leaning towards being child-free. The ones who are loudly saying, "I will not tolerate this, that, and the other." Men know that most women who shout loudly about what it is they don't want or will not tolerate, she explains what she's terrified of and what would most devastate her. And men see this as what a woman feels like she needs to finally feel safe enough if she is chosen correctly. These lists of boundaries also reveal what women most deeply desire. And desire, unlike boundaries, are very easy to manipulate. Here's the thing I think we all need to recognize, no matter what our methodology is. No one has actually escaped the patriarchy. Not the trad wife who is posting online about submission and knowing her place. And not the divested woman who posts soft life content and a 75-part skincare routine and sitting in her peace. Both are running different forms of survival strategies. Now, it's better to frame these two different methods as a civil war between women, especially because most trad wives are trying to impress upon their version of safety to everyone else. But underneath it all, the same fear exists. What happens to me if I get this wrong? And the system doesn't care what bet you place because there can be payout for both. The system always adapts. That is not conspiracy. That is just what power does when old tools stop working. And the only real defense, truly the only one, is not more information, is not a more stringent list of boundaries. It's grief. It's actually allowing yourself to grieve. For the fairy tale, for the version of you that still believes that the right man, at the right time, saying the right things will prove that you have finally been seen, finally chosen, finally right about everything that you endured up until that point. That belief, that little inkling, that little unquiet, unspoken desire hidden under soft life content, skincare routines, and decorating your apartment to the most girliness that it can exist in, is where the wolf finds its space. And it is not because you are foolish. It is because you're human, and the story that we were given existed long before we did. We have been taught that men don't listen, they don't communicate. They do not have the emotional intelligence that we do. But it is women who carry the stories, that carry the culture, that shape our harm, because we still have not addressed the darkest part of us that the patriarchy has given. We can divest from men, but as long as we are unable or unwilling or not ready to sit in that room with the part of us that has been shaped by patriarchy, by the fairy tales, by the desire to be chosen by men, then the wolf will always find a way in. Guys, if you have not already, go ahead, subscribe to my channel. I look forward to the discussion in the comments, so ciao ciao for now.